Admiral Haywan arrived with a military fleet 3 days after the signal began broadcasting. She was a veteran of numerous conflicts, a woman who had seen war across a dozen star systems, but nothing in her experience had prepared her for this. Her flagship, the Steadfast Dawn, took position in orbit around Kessler 9. With her came 15 warships, the largest force that could be assembled on short notice. The Galactic Council contributed another 20 vessels, a mix of alien designs and technologies. It seemed like an impressive armada, but everyone who knew the truth understood it was not enough. On the surface, Sujin worked with Hyunwoo and the research team, sharing everything she knew about the Devourers. She accessed the Eternal Horizons databanks, pulling up tactical information that was thousands of years old but still relevant. They do not attack like normal enemies, Sujin explained, projecting holographic displays for everyone to see. They exist in multiple dimensions at once. When they manifest in our reality, they can choose their form. Sometimes they appear as geometric shapes, sometimes as creatures, sometimes as nothing at all, just empty space that consumes everything it touches. How did your people fight them? Admiral Haywan asked via communication link. Poorly, Sujin admitted. Conventional weapons passed through them without effect. Energy weapons were absorbed and used to make them stronger. We eventually developed dimensional disruptors, weapons that could temporarily force them into our reality where they could be damaged. But we never produced enough of them. The war moved too fast. Taemin was working frantically, trying to reverse his mistake. He and his team were attempting to shut down the resonance drive to stop the signal. But the ancient system was too complex. Every time they thought they had found a solution, new problems emerged. It is like the ship wants to broadcast, Taemin said in frustration. Like it was designed to call them here. Sujin shook her head. Not designed to call them, but the resonance drive cannot be turned off once activated. It is too connected to the fabric of spacetime. The only way to stop it is to destroy it completely. Which brings us back to the nullifier, Yunho said quietly. The weapon you mentioned, the one that requires us to detonate the drive. Yes, Sujin agreed. But there is another option, a more desperate option. She pulled up another file from the ship's archives. A hologram appeared showing her first officer, a man named Dong-hyun. He had been dead for thousands of years, but his recorded message still carried weight. If you are watching this, Dong-hyun's image said, then our mission has failed in some way. Captain Sujin, if you survived, please forgive what we are about to tell you. There is another option beyond the nullifier. The recording showed technical schematics of the resonance drive. The drive can create wormholes, tiers in space-time that connect distant points. If modified correctly, it could create a wormhole large enough to swallow the Devourers. The wormhole would lead nowhere, a closed loop that traps them forever. The pilot would have only seconds to escape before the wormhole collapses. The recording ended. Sujin stood silent, processing what she had just learned. Her crew had kept this option from her, knowing she would never approve a plan so dangerous. Taemin immediately understood. A trap. We lure them in, create the wormhole, trap them inside. It is brilliant. It is suicide, Yunji countered. Whoever pilots that ship will not have seconds to escape. They will have milliseconds, and even if they survive, the ship will be torn apart. Then we use both plans, Hyunwoo said. Everyone turned to look at him. We use the wormhole to concentrate the Devourers in one location. Then we deploy the nullifier at reduced power. We seal them in a dimensional prison, but a smaller one that does not require us to destroy half the star system. Sujin considered this carefully. It could work. If the timing is perfect, if every calculation is exact, if nothing goes wrong. That is a lot of ifs, Ji-won pointed out. It is also our only chance, Admiral Haywan said through the communication link, because they are already here. The first signs came from the edge of the system. Ships began reporting strange sensor readings. Space itself seemed to be bending, warping in ways that made no sense. Then the distortions began moving, slowly at first, then faster, heading toward Kessler 9. Hyunwoo looked out the window of the research station and saw something that would haunt him forever. The stars were wrong. Where there should have been distant points of light, there were instead shapes, geometric impossibilities that hurt to look at. Angles that could not exist, colors that had no name. The Devourers had arrived. The fleet opened fire immediately. Missiles, energy beams, kinetic projectiles, everything they had. The weapons struck the approaching shapes and simply disappeared. No explosions, no debris. The weapons were erased from reality as if they had never existed. One by one, ships began vanishing. The Devourers moved through the fleet like death itself, unstoppable and inevitable. Entire vessels were deleted from existence, their crews screaming for help one moment and gone the next. Admiral Haywan ordered a retreat, but it was too late for many ships. The Devourers were not fast, but they were relentless, and they were everywhere, approaching from multiple directions at once as if space itself was being rewritten to accommodate them. "We need to move now," Sujin said urgently. "Every moment we wait, more people die," Hyunwoo nodded. He and Sujin began preparing the eternal horizon for flight. The ancient ship had not moved in thousands of years, but its systems were designed to last forever. With Taemin's help, they began the startup sequence. "I will pilot it," Sujin said. "It is my ship. My responsibility." "No," Hyunwoo said firmly. "You have been asleep for 3,000 years. Your body is still weak. Let me help you. We will pilot it together." Sujin looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Together. Bora and Yunho worked on modifying the nullifier, adjusting it to work at lower power. It was delicate work, like defusing a bomb while building a new bomb at the same time. One mistake would kill them all instantly. Yoonji organized the evacuation, getting all non-essential personnel off the planet. Ji-won coordinated with Admiral Haywan, ensuring the fleet would be ready to support the plan. Taemin calculated the wormhole coordinates, checking and rechecking his math. Everything had to be perfect. As the eternal horizon powered up fully for the first time in millennia, its hull began to glow with strange energies. The resonance drive activated, creating a field that bent light and twisted space around the vessel. In the cavern, ice began to crack and melt. The ship was waking up, and it was magnificent. Hyunwoo sat in the captain's chair with Sujin beside him. Daejung had uploaded himself into the ship's systems, giving them an extra advantage. The three of them, human and AI, ancient and modern, prepared to face the end of everything. "Hyunwoo," Daejung said quietly, "our chances of survival are approximately 3%. "I know," Hyunwoo replied. "Why are we doing this?" Hyunwoo looked at Sujin. She was checking her controls, her face calm despite the fear in her eyes. 3,000 years ago, she had tried to save her people and failed. Now she had a second chance, because someone has to, Hyunwoo said. Because if we do not, no one else will. Because we are human and humans do not surrender. We rise. Always we rise. The ship lifted off, breaking through layers of ice and rock. It rose into the sky, into the darkness where the Devourers waited. And behind them, every human and alien watching knew they were witnessing something extraordinary, something that would be remembered forever, one way or another. Sujin sat in the medical bay, wrapped in thermal blankets, staring at nothing. Her body had survived the revival, but her mind was struggling to accept what she had lost. 3,700 years. Her crew was dead. Her mission had failed. Her world was gone. Hyunwoo sat across from her, patient and gentle. Beside him, a woman named Bora worked with translation software, trying to bridge the gap between ancient and modern language. Bora was a specialist in dead languages, and she was fascinated by Sujin's archaic speech patterns. "Can you tell us what happened?" Hyunwoo asked softly. "Can you tell us about your ship?" Sujin's eyes focused on him slowly. She spoke, and Bora's computer translated her words into modern language. The translation was imperfect, but the meaning was clear enough. "We were running," Sujin said, "running from the end of everything. The Devourers had come, and we could not stop them. Nothing could stop them." "What are the Devourers?" Bora asked. Sujin's face went pale. "They are hunger given form. They are the end of civilizations. They exist between dimensions, feeding on advanced life. When a species reaches a certain level of technology, the Devourers notice, and then they come." Over the following days, Sujin told her story. It emerged in pieces, fragments of memory mixed with recovered data from the ship's computers. Taemin had his team extract every file, every log, every piece of information they could find. What they discovered changed everything humanity thought it knew about itself. In the year 847 AD by the old calendar, humanity had been far more advanced than modern history suggested. They had cities that floated in the sky. They had mastered genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and most importantly, faster than light travel. Their technology came from something called the resonance drive, an engine that tapped into the fundamental structure of space-time itself. But the resonance drive had a terrible side effect. Its energy signature was like a beacon to the Devourers. Once activated, it drew their attention inevitably. The war had been short and brutal. The Devourers were not physical beings in any conventional sense. They existed partially outside normal reality, making them nearly impossible to fight. They simply appeared, consumed everything, and moved on. Entire worlds went silent in days. The great human empire, which had spanned 40 star systems, fell in less than a year. Sujin had been captain of the Eternal Horizon, an arc ship designed to preserve humanity. Several such ships had been built in the final desperate days, loaded with people in cryosleep and sent far from inhabited space. The plan was simple: hide for thousands of years until the Devourers lost interest, then rebuild. But something had gone wrong. The Eternal Horizon had suffered catastrophic damage during its flight. It crashed on Kessler 9 and most of its crew died instantly. Only Sujin survived, her cryopod switching to emergency power. She had slept for millennia while her ship slowly froze under accumulating ice. The research team listened to her story with growing horror. Taman was particularly disturbed. He had been studying the ship's resonance drive, fascinated by its revolutionary design. Now he understood what it truly represented. "If what she says is true," Taman said during a private meeting, "then we need to destroy this ship immediately. We cannot risk activating that drive." But before anyone could respond, a new ship arrived at Kessler 9. It was not human. It bore the markings of the Galactic Council, the alliance of alien species that humanity had joined 2 centuries ago. A man named Kyung-soo emerged from the alien vessel. He was human, but he worked as a representative for the Council. He was accompanied by several alien advisors, including a tall crystalline being and a creature that looked like living shadow. "We need to talk," Kyung-soo said simply. "The Council knows about your discovery, and we need to tell you the truth we have been hiding." They gathered in the main research station. Kyung-soo stood before them, looking tired and worried. His alien companions remained silent, watching with their strange senses. "The Galactic Council has existed for over 5,000 years, Kyung-soo began. "In that time we have encountered many species, made many alliances. But there are things we do not talk about, things we keep secret to prevent panic." He activated a holographic display. Ancient star maps appeared, showing territories that no longer existed. 3,000 years ago, there was a human empire. We know this because several of our member species remember it. They traded with your ancestors. They learned from them. They watched as humanity spread across the stars with incredible speed. "And then?" Hyunho asked quietly. "And then humanity vanished. 40 inhabited worlds went silent within a single year. The Council investigated but found nothing. No survivors, no explanations. Just empty cities and abandoned ships. We thought your species had gone extinct. Until a few centuries ago," Kyung-soo continued, "when we encountered modern humanity. We found you on Earth, just beginning to explore your own solar system. You had no memory of your previous civilization. You were starting over from scratch. Why did you not tell us?" Ji-won demanded. "Why keep this secret?" Kyung-soo looked uncomfortable. "Because we were afraid. Something destroyed ancient humanity. Something powerful enough to erase 40 worlds in a year. We did not know what it was. We did not know if it might return. Telling you about your lost empire seemed cruel and dangerous." One of the alien advisors, the crystalline being, spoke in a voice like chiming bells. Its words were translated by a computer. "But now the Devourers are mentioned. Now we must share what we know. The Devourers are real. They have destroyed many species throughout galactic history. They are the reason why the Council strictly regulates certain technologies." "The resonance drive," Taman said. "Understanding. You knew about it. You knew it attracted them." "Yes. Several extinct species left warnings about engines that tap directly into dimensional fabric. We have always assumed these warnings referred to the Devourers, though we had no proof until now." Sujin spoke up, her voice stronger now. "Then you must help us. My people designed a weapon, something that could stop the Devourers permanently. It was built into this ship, but we never got to test it. We called it the Nullifier." Kyung-soo leaned forward intensely. "What does it do?" "It creates a permanent barrier in subspace. sealing the Devourers in their dimensional prison. But it requires enormous power. Specifically, it requires the complete detonation of a resonance drive. The room went silent. Everyone understood the implications. Using the nullifier would destroy everything within several light years, including Kessler 9 and everyone on it. There must be another way, Hyunwoo said. We did not wake you up after 3,000 years just to blow ourselves up. But Yoonji was checking her security monitors. Her face went pale. We have a bigger problem. Taemin, what did you do? Taemin looked guilty. I was running analysis on the resonance drive. Just passive scans, nothing active. I wanted to understand how it worked. Passive scans? Yoonji turned her monitor around. The drive is powering up. You activated it somehow, and it is broadcasting a signal. Kyung-soo stood up quickly, fear in his eyes. How long has it been broadcasting? 3 days, Taemin admitted. 3 days. Kyung-soo looked at his alien companions. They were already moving toward their ship. That signal travels through subspace. The Devourers use subspace to hunt. If they are anywhere in this region of the galaxy, they will have detected it by now. How long do we have? Ji-won asked. The crystalline alien chimed sadly. Hours, maybe days. Not long, they will come. They always come. Soo-jin stood up, throwing off her blankets. Despite her weakness, despite 3,000 years of loss, her voice was strong and clear. Then we fight. Again we fight. My people lost because we were not ready. But you have warning now. You have time to prepare. And you have me. I know their tactics. I know their weaknesses. They have weaknesses. Hyunwoo asked hopefully. Everything has weaknesses, Soo-jin replied. Even the end of worlds. Outside, the stars shone coldly in the sky. And somewhere in the dark between those stars, something ancient and hungry was beginning to stir. The research team arrived 6 days later. 3 transport ships landed near Hyunwoo's camp, bringing equipment, personnel, and most importantly, authority. Hyunwoo watched from his shelter as they set up their base, feeling his discovery slip away from him piece by piece. Taemin emerged from the lead transport, surrounded by assistants carrying data pads and scanning equipment. He was a tall man in his 40s with sharp eyes and an even sharper tongue. He was famous in archaeological circles, known for making breakthrough discoveries. He was also known for taking credit for other people's work. You must be Hyunwoo, Taemin said without offering a handshake. I have read your initial report. Interesting findings, though your conclusions are wildly speculative. We will need to conduct proper scientific analysis before making any grand claims. Hyunwoo bit back his anger. I have spent 3 weeks studying that ship. My conclusions are based on solid data. Your conclusions are based on limited equipment and limited expertise, Taemin replied. That is why the Colonial Authority sent me. Now show me this ship of yours. Behind Taemin, a woman in military uniform approached. She moved with the precise efficiency of a trained soldier. Her name was Yoonji, a security officer assigned to protect the site. She nodded politely at Hyunwoo but said nothing. Her hand never strayed far from the weapon at her hip. The team descended into the cavern. Hyunwoo led them down the same path he had taken, watching as they reacted to their first sight of the ancient vessel. Even Taemin seemed impressed, though he tried to hide it. Remarkable, Taemin muttered, walking around the ship with his scanning equipment. The hull composition is unlike anything in our databases. This alloy should not exist. It is too advanced, too perfect. That is what I said in my report, Hyunwoo pointed out. Taemin ignored him and continued his examination. Over the following days, the team set up scanning stations around the ship. They ran every test they could think of, bombarding the vessel with radiation, sound waves, and electromagnetic pulses. Hyunwoo watched from the sidelines, relegated to an assistant's role in his own discovery. On the 4th day, an old man arrived at the site. Hyunwoo recognized him immediately. Yunho had been his teacher years ago, back when Hyunwoo was a university student dreaming of finding lost civilizations. The old professor moved slowly now, his hair completely white, but his eyes were still bright with curiosity. Hyunwoo, my boy, Yunho said warmly, embracing him. You have found something extraordinary. I came as soon as I heard. They sat together that evening in Hyunwoo's shelter away from Taemin and his team. Yunho studied all of Hyunwoo's data carefully, his old fingers scrolling through screen after screen of information. I have a theory, Yunho said finally. It is wild and most scientists would laugh at me, but looking at this evidence I cannot ignore the possibility. What theory? Hyunwoo asked. What if human history is not what we think it is? What if humanity achieved space travel once before, thousands of years ago? What if we built ships like this one, explored the galaxy, and then somehow lost everything? What if we are not discovering space travel for the first time, but rediscovering it? Hyunwoo leaned back thinking. It made a terrible kind of sense. The symbols on the ship, the human-like energy signatures, the ancient age. But if Yunho was right, what had happened to that first human civilization? Why did no records survive? Why did humanity have to start over from nothing? You should present this theory to Taemin, Hyunwoo said. Yunho laughed bitterly. Taemin would never listen. He has already decided what he wants to find. He is looking for alien technology he can study and exploit. He does not want to hear theories that challenge his assumptions. That night, Hyunwoo could not sleep. He kept thinking about the ship, about what might be inside. Taemin had forbidden anyone from entering the vessel until his scans were complete, but Hyunwoo had found it first. Surely he had the right to explore it. At 2 a.m, he made his decision. He put on his suit and crept out of his shelter. Daejung activated immediately. Hyunwoo, what are you doing? We are going inside that ship. That is against direct orders. Taemin will be furious. I do not care about Taemin. That ship has been waiting for thousands of years. It chose to reveal itself to me. I'm going to find out why. He descended into the cavern alone, using a route that avoided the security cameras Yoonji had installed. The ship loomed in the darkness, patient and silent. Hyunwoo approached the hatch he had found on his first day. The symbols still glowed faintly. He placed his hand on the hatch. This time he was ready for the response. The symbols brightened, and with a hiss of ancient air, the hatch opened. A ramp extended downward, inviting him inside. Energy readings are stable, Daejung reported. Atmosphere is breathable, surprisingly. Life support systems appear to be active. Hyunwoo climbed the ramp and entered the ship. Inside, the corridors were dark but intact. His suit lights revealed walls covered in more symbols, mixed with screens and control panels. Everything looked functional, as if the crew had just stepped away for a moment and might return at any second. He moved deeper into the ship, following a corridor that seemed to lead toward the center. The silence was absolute. His footsteps echoed strangely in the empty halls. He felt like an intruder in a tomb. Then he found them. A large chamber filled with cryopods. Most of them were dark and empty. Some contained bodies, desiccated remains of people who had died thousands of years ago. Hyunwoo felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. These were humans. Ancient humans who had died waiting for rescue that never came. But one pod was different. One pod still glowed with active lights. One pod still hummed with power. Hyunwoo approached it slowly. Inside he could see a woman, perfectly preserved. Her face was peaceful, as if she were merely sleeping. A display panel above the pod showed text in the same mixed language he had seen before. Daejung began translating immediately. Name, Sujin. Rank, Captain. Status, active suspension. Warning, power levels critical. She is alive? Hyunwoo whispered. The pod is keeping her alive, but power reserves are nearly depleted. She has perhaps days left, maybe hours. Hyunwoo stared at the sleeping woman. A captain. The captain of this ancient ship. If he woke her, she could answer every question. She could explain everything. But the revival process would be dangerous. He had medical training, but nothing that covered bringing someone back from 3,000 years of cryosleep. Before he could decide, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The pod's lights flashed red. Something had gone wrong. The power was failing faster than expected. Sojin's body began to convulse inside the pod. Emergency revival sequence activated, Daejung announced. Hyunwoo, her pod is failing. If we do nothing, she will die. Hyunwoo did not hesitate. He moved to the pod's control panel and began working. His hands flew over the ancient controls, guided by Daejung's rapid translations. He rerouted power from his suit, fed it into the pod systems. He stabilized the revival sequence, adjusted the chemical mixture, monitored her vital signs as they climbed slowly back to life. It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of desperate work, of fighting to save a woman who had been dead to the world for millennia. Finally, the pod opened. Sujin gasped and opened her eyes, and behind Hyunwoo he heard running footsteps. Yoonji and her security team burst into the chamber, weapons drawn. They had detected the energy surge. They had found him, but Hyunwoo did not care. He was staring at Sujin as she sat up slowly. looking around in confusion and growing horror. Her lips moved. She spoke in a language that was almost Korean, but not quite. Daejung translated, "Did we stop them? Are the devourers gone?" The words hung in the air like a death sentence, and in that moment, everyone in the chamber understood that this discovery was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The ice stretched endlessly across the frozen wasteland of Kessler 9. Hyunwoo stood alone at the edge of a deep drilling site, watching his equipment cut through layers of ancient ice. The wind howled around him, but his suit kept him warm and protected. He had been working here for 3 weeks, far from the nearest settlement, exactly how he liked it. His scanner beeped again. The same strange reading he had detected 21 days ago. Energy signatures that made no sense. They did not match anything natural, and they certainly did not match any human technology he knew. Hyunwoo crouched down and checked his equipment again. "The readings were real. Daejung, are you seeing this?" Hyunwoo asked. A calm voice responded through his helmet speakers. Daejung was an artificial intelligence that lived inside his exploration suit. They had worked together for 5 years now. "I am seeing it, Hyunwoo. The energy signature is definitely coming from beneath us, approximately 200 meters down, buried in the ice." Hyunwoo stood up and looked at the drilling equipment. It had cost him most of his savings to rent this gear. If he found nothing, he would be broke for another year. But something told him this was different. This was important. "Let me continue drilling," he said. "You should report this to the Colonial Office," Daejung replied. "Administrator Jiwon requires all unusual findings to be logged within 48 hours of discovery." Hyunwoo shook his head, even though Daejung could not see the gesture. "If I report it now, they will take over. They will bring in their teams, their bureaucrats, their regulations. This is my discovery, Daejung. I found it. Your discovery, yes, but also your responsibility." Hyunwoo did not answer. He simply activated the drilling equipment again and watched it dig deeper into the ice. The drill bit spun and cut, sending up clouds of frozen particles that sparkled in the dim sunlight. Kessler 9 was far from its star, and the light here was always weak and cold. Days passed. Hyunwoo barely slept. He ate his ration bars quickly and returned to work. The drill went deeper and deeper. The energy readings grew stronger. Something massive was down there, something that had been sleeping beneath the ice for a very long time. On the 21st day, the drill broke through. Hyunwoo felt the change immediately. The drill suddenly met no resistance. It had punched through into an open space. He shut down the equipment and peered into the hole. Darkness looked back at him. "Daejung, prepare the climbing gear. I am going down." "Hyunwoo, this is extremely dangerous. You do not know what is down there." "That is exactly why I need to see it." He attached cables to his suit and lowered himself into the hole. The ice walls glowed faintly blue around him as he descended. His suit lights cut through the darkness below. Down and down he went, slowly, carefully. His heart pounded in his chest. Then he saw it. The cavern opened up around him, vast and cold. And there, sitting in the center like a sleeping giant, was a starship. It was enormous, easily 2 kilometers long. The hull was dark, made of some metal that seemed to absorb his suit lights. Strange patterns covered its surface, geometric designs that hurt his eyes when he looked at them too long. Hyunwoo landed on the cavern floor and walked slowly toward the ship. His boots crunched on the ancient ice. He could not breathe properly. His chest felt tight with excitement and fear. "Daejung, are you recording this?" "Yes, every second." "Hyunwoo, this ship is not human. The design does not match any known human vessels. It does not match any known alien vessels either. How old is it?" There was a pause while Daejung analyzed the data. The ice around it has been here for approximately 3,700 years. The ship was already here when this ice formed. 3,700 years. Hyunwoo felt dizzy. Humanity had only achieved faster than light travel 400 years ago. This ship should not exist. Could not exist. He walked around the ship slowly, examining it from every angle. The hull was intact with no visible damage. It looked like it had simply landed here and gone to sleep. Near what he assumed was the front of the vessel, he found something that made him stop. A hatch. And above the hatch, symbols. Hyunwoo moved closer and brushed away the thin layer of frost covering the symbols. His hands trembled. Some of these symbols looked familiar. They looked like ancient human writing, languages that had been dead for thousands of years. But mixed in with them were other symbols he did not recognize at all. Daejung, can you translate these? Partial translation possible. I am detecting elements of ancient Korean, ancient Chinese, and 3 other language systems I cannot identify. This does not make sense, Hyunwoo. If this ship is 3,000 years old, it predates human space travel by thousands of years. Unless our history is wrong. That seems unlikely. Hyunwoo reached out and touched the hatch. The metal was cold even through his gloves. But as his hand made contact, something changed. The symbols began to glow faintly, pulsing with a soft blue light. He jumped back, startled. Energy readings are spiking, Daejung warned. The ship is responding to your presence. Is it dangerous? Unknown. But we should leave and report this immediately. Hyunwoo stood there staring at the glowing symbols. Every instinct told him to open that hatch to see what was inside. But Daejung was right. This was bigger than him now. This was bigger than anything he had ever found. Okay, he said finally. Okay, we report it. He climbed back up to the surface and sat in his small shelter, warming his hands over the heating unit. Then he activated his communication system and sent a message to the colonial office. He kept it simple and direct. He had found something under the ice. Something important. Something that Administrator Ji-won needed to see immediately. The response came back within an hour. Ji-won herself answered his call. Her face appeared on his screen. Professional and skeptical as always. Hyunwoo, your message was vague. What exactly have you found? He chose his words carefully. A ship, buried under 200 meters of ice. It is old, Ji-won. Older than human space travel. I think it might be the most important archaeological find in human history. Ji-won stared at him for a long moment. He could see her mind working, calculating. Send me all your data immediately, and do not, under any circumstances, enter that vessel. Do you understand me? I understand. I am declaring your site quarantined as of this moment. Stay there. Do not let anyone else approach. I am contacting the United Earth Colonial Authority. They will want to see this. The screen went dark. Hyunwoo sat back and looked out at the frozen landscape. In the distance, beyond the ice and rock, stars glittered coldly in the black sky. Somewhere out there, humanity had built an empire among those stars. They had found alien life, made alliances, created a civilization that spanned dozens of worlds. But none of them knew the truth. None of them knew that humanity had done all this before thousands of years ago, and none of them knew what had happened to that first human empire. Hyunwoo looked down at the hole in the ice. The ship waited below, patient and silent. It had waited for centuries. Now it would finally tell its story. He just hoped humanity was ready to hear it. The eternal horizon flew through hell. All around the ship, reality was breaking down. The devourers were everywhere, their impossible forms bending space and time. Hyunwoo could barely look at them without feeling his mind start to crack. They were not meant to be seen by human eyes. Steady, Sujin said beside him. Her hands moved across the ancient controls with practiced ease. Despite being awake for only days after millennia of sleep, she flew the ship as if no time had passed at all. Do not look at them directly. Focus on the instruments. Behind them, what remained of the fleet provided covering fire. They could not hurt the devourers, but they could create distractions, draw attention away from the eternal horizon. Ships were dying every minute, but their crews fought anyway. They fought because the alternative was giving up, and humanity had never been good at giving up. Approaching the calculated coordinates, Daejung reported. His voice was calm, but Hyunwoo could hear the strain in it. Even an AI could feel fear when facing the end of everything. 30 seconds until we can activate the wormhole. Taemin's voice came through the communication system from the research station below. The nullifier is ready. Once you create the wormhole and draw them in, you will have exactly 4.3 seconds to deploy it. Not more, not less. If you are late, the wormhole will collapse and they will escape. If you are early, the nullifier will not be powerful enough to seal them. Understood, Sujin replied. 4.3 seconds. We can do that, can we? Hyunwoo asked quietly. She looked at him and smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. Do we have a choice? The ship reached the coordinates. Around them, the devourers converged, drawn by the resonance drive's energy signature like moths to a flame. There were dozens of them now, maybe hundreds. Geometric shapes that existed in too many dimensions, creatures made of living darkness. Things that defied description because language itself broke down trying to name them. Activating wormhole sequence, Su-Jin announced. She placed her hand on a glowing panel. Now, the resonance drive screamed. It was not a sound in any conventional sense, but everyone heard it anyway. It echoed through dimensions, through the fabric of reality itself. Space-time began to tear, and a massive rift opened in front of the ship. The wormhole was enormous, a swirling vortex of impossible colors and distorted space that pulled at everything nearby. The Devourers turned toward it immediately. They sensed the power, the dimensional distortion. It called to them. One by one, they began moving toward the wormhole, drawn into its gravitational pull. They could not resist. The trap was working, but the ship was also being pulled in. The eternal horizon groaned as its engines fought against the wormhole's gravity. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. The hull began to crack under the strain. "We cannot hold this position much longer," Daejung warned. "Hull integrity at 60% and falling." "Just a few more seconds," Su-Jin said through gritted teeth. "We need to make sure they all enter the wormhole." Hyunwoo watched the sensors. More Devourers were arriving. Drawn from across the system, they poured toward the wormhole like water down a drain. 50, 60, 70 of them. How many were there? How could humanity ever have survived against such numbers? Then he understood something. He understood why ancient humanity had survived as long as they did. It was not because they were stronger or smarter than other species. It was because they were too stubborn to quit. They kept fighting, kept adapting, kept finding new ways to resist even when resistance seemed impossible. "All major Devourer signatures are entering the wormhole," Daejung reported. "Now is the time. Deploy the nullifier now." Su-Jin reached for the activation control, but her hand hesitated. She looked at Hyunwoo, really looked at him, and he saw what she was thinking. She had spent 3,000 years in frozen sleep. She had lost her crew, her civilization, everything she loved. But she had found something new here in these final moments. She had found purpose again. She had found people worth saving. "You need to leave," she said quietly. "There is an escape pod in the rear section. Take Daejung and go. I will deploy the nullifier." "No," Hyunwoo said immediately. "This is my ship. My mission. I should have completed it 3,000 years ago. Let me finish what I started. We pilot together, remember? That was the deal. Hyunwoo, please. Someone needs to survive to tell this story. Someone needs to remember what happened here." But Hyunwoo was already moving. He activated the ship's automated systems, programming them to maintain position and deploy the nullifier on his command. Then he grabbed Su-Jin's hand and pulled her toward the rear of the ship. "Daejung, take control of the escape pod. Override all security protocols. We are leaving. Now." "But the nullifier needs to be activated manually," Su-Jin protested. "No, it does not. Your crew designed it with automated backup systems precisely for this situation. I checked the schematics while you were recovering. The ship can complete the mission without us." They ran through the corridors as the ship continued to break apart. Behind them, the Devourers were being compressed into the wormhole, forced into a smaller and smaller space. The dimensional pressure was building to impossible levels. They reached the escape pod. Daejung had already opened it and initialized launch systems. Hyunwoo practically threw Su-Jin inside, then jumped in after her. The pod sealed and launched just as Hyunwoo sent the final command to the eternal horizon. "Deploy nullifier. Authorization code, hope never dies." The ancient ship obeyed its final order. Deep in its core, the nullifier activated. It drew power from the resonance drive, channeling energies that existed beyond normal physics. The wormhole began to collapse, but not naturally. It collapsed into a permanent seal, a dimensional barrier that would trap the Devourers forever. The eternal horizon exploded. But it was not a normal explosion. It was a cascade of dimensional rifts, a flowering of impossible energies that rewrote the laws of physics in a localized area. The Devourers screamed if such beings could scream. They were caught, trapped, sealed away in a prison made of collapsed space-time. The escape pod tumbled through space, battered by the shockwaves but intact. Inside, Hyunwoo and Su-Jin held on to each other as the universe seemed to tear apart around them. Then suddenly it was over. The energies faded. The rifts closed. Space returned to normal. Admiral Haewon's fleet found them hours later, drifting but alive. The Steadfast Dawn retrieved their pod, and medics immediately began checking them for injuries. Both had broken bones and radiation exposure, but they would survive. Days later, after treatment and debriefing, Yunwoo stood on the observation deck of the Steadfast Dawn. Beside him, Sujin looked out at the stars. They were the same stars she had known 3,000 years ago, but also different. New constellations, new meanings. What will you do now? Hyunwoo asked. I do not know. My mission is complete. But I am still here. I am still alive. You could stay with me. Help me search for other ARC ships. Your people sent out several vessels. Some of them might still be out there waiting. Sujin looked at him and smiled. I would like that. Months passed. The Galactic Council formally recognized the existence of ancient humanity and agreed to preserve their memory. A monument was built on Kessler 9 where the Eternal Horizon had rested. It bore an inscription that Sujin herself had written. They fought. They fell. They rose again. Hyunwoo returned to exploration, but not alone. Sujin and Jiwon joined him, forming a small team dedicated to finding the lost ARC ships and piecing together humanity's true history. Yunho published his comprehensive history, which became required reading throughout human space. A new generation learned that their species had faced extinction before and survived. Taemin retired from fieldwork, traumatized by his role in attracting the Devourers. But he used his experience to develop new safety protocols for studying ancient technology. His work would save lives in the future. One day, Hyunwoo received a signal from a distant system. The energy signature matched the Eternal Horizon's design. Another ARC ship still sleeping beneath alien ice, still waiting for someone to find it. As his ship prepared to jump to faster than light, Hyunwoo thought about Sujin's words to him just before the escape pod launched. Words she had whispered as they fled her dying ship. Words that had been both goodbye and promise. We rise.
Always we rise. He looked out at the stars and smiled.
Humanity had risen before. It would rise again, and again, as many times as necessary, because that was what humans did. They fell, they struggled, they fought, and they never ever stopped rising. The ship jumped to light speed, carrying its crew toward new discoveries, new mysteries, new chances to prove that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their intelligence. It was their refusal to accept the end.